If dictionaries had photos next to each entry, what do you suppose would be next to the word motorcycle? I think it's probably going to be one of these. Now you're probably thinking this is a Honda CB500F, and yeah, it is a motorcycle. It's motorcycling in sort of its kind of really most basic form. If you're a new rider, if you're commuting, or maybe you're just a riding school hoping to buy a new batch of bikes, the CB500F has long been the go-to. It just kind of ticks all the boxes. But this actually isn't a CB500F, not quite. We have a sticker, and the sticker says Hornet. Now, while we were busy waxing lyrical about the new CB750 Hornet last year, which is kind of in that really exciting sort of group of middleweight twins with 270-degree cranks, Honda was secretly working up two new Hornet models, which was the CB1000 Hornet, which will be a sort of replacement for the CB1000R eventually, and the other one was this, except unlike the CB1000R, which has a new frame and various other new bits, this CB500 Hornet is basically just a very lightly reworked CB500F. Now the main thing you might have noticed already is this new headlamp unit. I think it's definitely an improvement on what came before. Yeah, what came before frankly looked like a sort of weird alien face mask that had been put in the microwave. The tank has been reshaped. Obviously, as mentioned, we have the sticker. I don't know how I feel about the sticker. It has the feeling of a bit of an afterthought. I feel like they could have done something a bit nicer there. Otherwise though, it looks pretty much as it did before. We have this nice clean looking tail unit with these little air ducts, big old Euro 5 exhaust. While we're down here, I might as well look at the tyres. Last time I rode a CB500F, it was on Michelin at Road 5s. These are Road 6s, so Road 5s are always good. These are even better, so that's great news. Probably the most significant thing, really, for the end user is this new screen. It's a 5-inch colour TFT. Before it had an LCD, which was okay. It had all the information there, but it wasn't always the easiest thing to see, and it kind of looked a bit old hat. This new colour setup, much better. We have this, what looks like a sort of diddly little control that's actually feels quite nice and chunky when you use it. You can go through all your trip data there. Traction control is new as well. Again, that's going to be great news for new riders who just are kind of building their confidence up. It's a simple kind of press and hold there just above the horn, and a press and hold again, and the traction control is off. In terms of suspension, there is the Showa SFFBP, which is Showa the chassis is much the same as before, and that means we have a Showa SFFBP fork, which means separate function fork, big piston. So no huge changes there. As before, we've also got twin front discs. I think they are 297 mils. That's always nice to see on an A2 bike because twin discs isn't always a given. So plenty of stopping power considering the weight, which is 188 kilos. So the power to weight ratio then is pretty good because you got 47 horsepower from this 471cc parallel twin. Now, unlike the bigger 750 Hornet, we don't have a 270-degree crank here. We have what used to be kind of the conventional 180-degree arrangement. So, well, judge for yourself. Sounds like a bit of a sewing machine. Yeah, that to me is the sound of learning to ride. So all that's left to do now really is go and ride the thing and see if it's any good. Now I have a bit of a soft spot for the old CB500F. Now I got my bike license, when was it? Something like 2010 or something like that. I spent many years not riding. One day I thought, you know what, I really need to get back on the horse, and I did so with a CB500F. Yeah, it is ideal because it is just a motorbike. It's simple. It's easy to ride, it's easy to manoeuvre, it's got a decent amount of power to get you out of trouble, but not too much power that you might get, you know, a bit carried away with yourself. After a while, you do find yourself wanting more. Not necessarily even more power, maybe just a bit more character. And twin-cylinder engine that sounds a bit less like a piece of industrial equipment and more like, you know, a kind of an actual engine. No quick shifter on this, you can't get a quick shifter at all. It's not really that kind of bike. I think if you're the sort of person who is thinking I want a quick shifter, you're probably going to be going for the CB750. So let's knock it down a second. Yeah, actually when you rev it out, oh, that's the horn. When you rev it out, it's alright actually.
got quite a nice bit of fizz in the top end. I'm want to keep things relatively steady today because absolutely shat it down with rain yesterday. Everything's still pretty down. There's a bit of sun this morning, so I'm hoping it's going to dry things out a bit more. At the moment it's just sort of alright. Decent bit of torque with these, 30 pound-foot, so yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm rolling off of this roundabout in third quite happily. Yeah, so that's wide open there. Let's get it to perimeter. It's just a likeable little motorbike. It's unintimidating. It's still pretty quick actually. I think that's a the benefit of it being a reasonably lightweight bike at 188 kilos. I have been through winter riding a Royal Enfield Continental GT 650, which is also at the 47 brake A2 limit, but that weighs something like 215 kilos. It's a good 35 odd kilos more than this. And you notice it not just when you're cranking it open, but also going through some corners. It does flick from side to side quite nicely. It is quite a softly sprung motorcycle, but I think for the people riding this is ideal. As I say, it's not pitched as like a sort of corner carving monster, general sort of all-purpose bike. It's still pretty good, I'd say, on a country road. It's just, yeah, it's not like a hard charging, stiffly sprung weapon. I'll go down second and yeah, 47 brake horsepower, as long as you've not got too much weight, perfectly acceptable. It's quite an eager little engine as well. I don't know, maybe I am noticing a bit of difference in sort of the response of the engine with these. That's the thing I didn't mention in my little stand-up walk-around thing, is there are some ECU tweaks that have gone on, aimed at kind of just making it, yeah, more eager, spin off a bit nicer, just kind of unlock a bit more potential from that little engine. Damping is on the softer end of the spectrum, but there's a good amount of control to damping, because that's the thing. You can have soft suspension, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be comfortable, because it means it'll wallow horribly and bounce you up and down over undulations. This, yeah, there is a decent amount of control as it goes through its travel, and they've got a pretty good balance here. Yeah, and that display, what a big improvement that is. It's so clear compared to the old one, particularly if the old one, if you had a bit of light glare on it, it wasn't exactly the easiest thing to read, but this, yeah, clear as day. Now the engine, I know I said that for the most part, and apart from when you're really knocking it round to the red line, although it's not the most exciting thing out there, I'll tell you what it is, very economical. So the official figure from Honda is 50 mpg. Now when I had the old 500F, on one particular trip, granted it was a pretty boring trip, there wasn't any sort of twisty roads where I was gunning it or anything, but I managed to get 90 mpg. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me that if you rode carefully enough, if you maybe even get, yeah, I don't know, 100 mpg out of it, quite possibly. Yeah, there's not really many bad things to say about this motorbike. It's just possibly still lacking in outright excitement. Depending on the kind of motorcyclist you are, perhaps that doesn't matter.
And so we have what must be the most predictable conclusion to any bike review we're going to do this year. It's very much like a CB500F, funnily enough. But that being said, the changes that Honda have made, they're all worthwhile ones. Yeah, the ECU stuff, you can feel a bit more kind of zinginess to the engine, but maybe the changes there aren't sort of hugely noticeable. I think you'd need to get it back to back with the old bike to really suss out just how different it is. But straight away, you do notice that colour TFT, which is a big improvement on really what was one of the weakest elements of the old CB500F. It's great to also see that same display on the CBR500R, and it's also on the NX500. That's another bike, by the way, that's had a rebrand. That used to be the CB500X. So yeah, rebrands going on everywhere at Honda. Obviously chassis much the same as before, but I don't think that's any bad thing. I think with what this bike is pitched at doing, it was already a pretty good balance. It didn't really need a lot of changes in that area. The looks, obviously, as we've discussed, I think that's a big step up, and I think the front end just wasn't quite right for me before. I quite like the look of this, and it ties it in nicely with this wider Hornet family. And now that brings me to the Hornet name. It doesn't really bother me. I mean, the people who were irked at the name of, you know, what was an old 600cc inline 4 screamer being brought back for twin cylinder bike, the CB500 last year, if they were irked, then they will still be irked now. Nothing's going to change them, but I guess at least they've got this 1000 coming to kind of appease them to some extent. There are so many bike names that are just sort of a collection of letters and numbers all mixed together that, you know, it's nice to just see a name that's kind of easy to say and looks good on the side of a motorbike, even though, as I said, the sticker I don't think is the best. And it's nice to see everything brought into this cohesive family where you've got something for everyone. You've got this is the entry level, you've got the CB750 is a nice mid-range, that's probably the one I would go for. And if you want your litre bike shenanigans, of course, you've got the CB500 Hornet, which we'll be testing later this year. And that's pretty much all we've got to say. Apart from, if you like this video, please do also subscribe to the Visordown YouTube channel and tickle that bell icon so you're notified of all our latest releases. You can also go to visordown.com where we will have a full in-depth review of this bike and lots of other bikes and lots of bike news and general bike good stuff. That's all the stuff, isn't it? That's all the end of video stuff done. So yeah, cheers.